Joining me to try to make some sense of this race, a guy who's watched these things about almost as long as I have, Joe Klein of the Time magazine, and the Wall Street Journal's Kelly Evans, who hasn't watched them.
No, but I did get a front row look on Monday night, and it was pretty interesting.
You sure did. I want to ask you about that. This primary was all about debates. What was it like to be asking the questions? Because you asked it, and boy, that crowd was going wild.
The energy was interesting. The crowd was almost as much a candidate or a part of the debate as anyone else. And I think to talk about the debates a little bit broadly, they've been an opportunity for Newt Gingrich to really stage his comeback and really stage his campaign. You know, Mitt Romney's folks going into next week were hoping he might not even have to participate in the debates because it basically gives airtime to Newt Gingrich, who does quite well in them. And Mitt Romney spent so much money, but as we're learning, that doesn't necessarily amount to as much as a good performance does. So tomorrow night, NBC has a national debate in Florida. As we turn our attention there, Mitt Romney will be involved. There will be 2 more debates. And again, don't count that out. Even though Mitt Romney has raised so much money and spent so much money in Florida, these debates are part of the reason why Newt Gingrich just won South Carolina.
Where do you think this thing is right now, Joe?
Well, maybe we should go along with what Gingrich wants and have debates without moderators, because he's been really good at beating the moderators in the debates. You know, he's really terrific at taking us to the cleaners, but he hasn't been all that tough on Mitt Romney. He had a couple of good moments. Pius Baloney was a good moment, but if you look at the debate on Thursday night, Rick Santorum, former prosecutor, really took it to both Romney and Gingrich, something that Gingrich hasn't been willing to do. But you got to say that right now, he fits the profile of this Republican Party better than Romney does, because he can do anger really well.
Well, I mean, one of the things I asked Governor Barber, what is the Republican establishment now? Gingrich says that Romney is the Republican establishment, but who is there such a thing anymore?
Well, it sure ain't the one that we used to know, Bob. It's become a far more populist party. It's a party of the white working class, and that's who Newt Gingrich is representing. You know, in any other Republican race of the millions that I've covered, you know, Mitt Romney would have been a shoo-in. They usually go for the next guy in line, and he was the next guy in line.
Part of the problem may be, in this case, the next guy in line is showing that he's not necessarily as electable as he's supposed to be. So it's not necessarily that Newt Gingrich has suddenly demonstrated his electability, even though we heard Lindsey Graham talking favorably about his immigration policies. It's not necessarily that Newt Gingrich is going to reach out to independents, but that yesterday showed Mitt Romney isn't necessarily doing that. And if the GOP feels that its candidate can't necessarily do that, then it does have a problem.
Will the economy be more of an issue in Florida? You write about housing. That's what your column is about at the Wall Street Journal. Is this going to be an issue in Florida, say, maybe more so than South Carolina?
Florida is one of the states hit hardest by foreclosures, and South Carolina, Florida are very different demographically and economically than Iowa and then New Hampshire. But what's really interesting, we've reached this moment where we feel like the economy is getting better, unemployment's coming down. This is supposed to be good for Obama's reelection chances, but don't count out the possibility that the data here starts to get a little bit weaker in the weeks and months ahead. We've seen this for the last couple of years, and if we're heading into the summer, maybe looking at the importance of the convention suddenly in this GOP process, maybe if the economy starts to worsen, that also affects the way people vote. Remember, people who made the economy their top priority voted for Newt Gingrich yesterday.
Well, what about this?
One thing that's going to be important in Florida is entitlements. I mean, you know, Mitt Romney has spent the last month talking about his opposition to an entitlement society and is being in favor of an opportunity society. But you got a lot of people down in Florida who are on entitlements, on Medicare and Social Security, and don't want to see it messed with by the federal government. So it's going to be interesting to see how
20 seconds left. Do you think we're going to have a brokered convention here? And if we do, will we remember how to cover it?
I certainly won't. You might, but but it's not impossible, I think.